All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Thank you for continuing to listen. And if you're here today, you probably have an interest in the topic that we're covering today. So I have on with us Nicole Lange. Thank you so much, Nicole, for coming on to the show today.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Where are you from, by the way? I didn't even ask that.
I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota, a
Ah,
place
that's
that's
right.
been making the news a lot these days.
Yes,
So
yes,
it's an
yes.
intense and a beautiful community. I've been
Ah,
here for
yeah.
23 years.
Amazing. Yeah, we have some of my best friends live in Minneapolis, so I frequent there often.
It's great. Come anytime.
Yes. And yeah, I'm really excited for this conversation today, Nicole, because I think that just going into this challenge that a lot of women are having around fertility and their bodies, it just really seems like you're bringing a more holistic, like well-rounded approach to the work that you're doing.
Absolutely.
And yeah, before we get into it, can you just share a little bit about your background and how you came to specialize in reproductive and emotional health?
Yeah. So my story weaves with sexual wellness. Absolutely. So I was listening to some of your other podcast guests, a lot of early, strict, authoritarian, no pleasure, sex
Hmm.
is wrong kind of upbringing.
Hmm.
My mom had brought me to a class that she told me was a babysitting class that was really how to put a tampon in class. And so I
What
mean
a
like
gift.
really hardcore. Um, and then I was assaulted and I was really clueless and I was really sheltered and it really everything crumbled in my life. And I wasn't steeped in any of this holistic, mindful, skillful, you know,
Hmm.
therapy, any of it. And so I did what I knew, which was you go on all the medications for all the things and you treat piecemeal, piece by piece.
Hmm.
And that saved my life. And literally, I was in the intensive care unit I attempted to suicide, take my life. And my life was saved. I did that for many more years, the pills. And then I got to this place where I was like, I am not well. I am stable. And I love Western medicine, but it's not going to get me any better than this. And
Hmm.
so I started to branch out. And I really was a very strange acupuncture student because I had never really had acupuncture, but I was intrigued for my own healing. So I showed up to a master's degree program without any idea of what it was about and just absorbed everything. And I really wanted to be steeped into the reproductive wellness because I have PCOS and endometriosis. So I hadn't had a cycle in 2 years. And there was just so much woven together with my reproductive energy
Hmm.
that I added a whole bunch of extra studies of that and made that my focus. And then when I graduated and started my practice, I said, I'm only going to see women only who identify with reproductive concerns or mental
Hmm.
health concerns.
Hmm.
And within 6 months, I had a wait list,
Hmm.
and about 85 to 90% of my patients at any given point are trying to conceive or in subsequent pregnancies. And it really, really turned out that the intersection of sex and trauma and
Hmm.
reproductive health is a really good fit for holistic medicine and Chinese medicine. So I've been doing that for 20 years now, and I love it, and I'm so grateful, and I can't untangle that from all this trauma and all these really dark days. So in a weird way, it's come full circle to where I'm really grateful for that.
Hmm. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, so much for sharing your story and especially the vulnerable parts of it. I really appreciate that. And yeah, it makes sense in a way, right? That you've landed here. It seems like, yeah, you have a lot of passion and you have then a lot of experience too that you're able to speak from in this. And I love when someone niches down in their business. I know it's like
Hmm.
so scary, but when it's, yeah, when you find your wheelhouse, you're like, these are my people. Things just seem to work out in that way as it sounds like you're seeing. So
They
congratulations
really
on
do.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, 20 years you've been doing this.
20 years.
What have you seen that most people are getting wrong when it comes to fertility?
Yeah, so we were just talking about I'm working on a book right now, and the main idea that I see that over the years, the first thing, well, I'll go back. I started doing these mind body retreats where I would teach a week of it. And just the thing that struck me every single time I would do these retreats was just everyone was putting their lives on hold.
Hmm.
And one of the first pieces that I ever wrote was a meditation. It's up on my website. It's called Longing versus Living.
Hmm.
And it's just like the body is so wise about wanting to prioritize our quality of life first before we reproduce. Like as a
Mhm.
species, we need to reproduce, but as individuals, we don't.
Mhm.
And so the more we put our lives on hold, the more that fertility itself becomes threatening and hypervigilant, the more uphill we're creating for the treatments or the things that we might legitimately need because we have polycystic ovarian syndrome or endometriosis or other
Mhm.
things. So it's not that it's all just taking your life off hold and having more felt safety, but it's that that is a critical component that we don't talk about. And as I sat with it for all these years, it's not just that we don't, it's that the fertility culture as a whole is actively working against it.
Mhm.
It's giving
Mhm.
us so much, do more, drill
Mhm.
down, restrict, get back to this after you have a baby. This will all be worth it
Mhm.
in the end. And it really is just the exact opposite of what a nervous system needs to be in rest, digest, and reproduce mode, which of course then bumps into circulatory, endocrine,
Mhm.
immune,
Mhm.
all the things that you need to implant an embryo, to build a healthy placenta, to do all the things.
Yeah. And I think you're getting to this already, but that's really what the difference is between that traditional Chinese medicine versus Western medicine. Do you want to say more on that in terms of
Yeah.
fertility, like how vastly different they are?
Yeah, that's a great question and point. I think what really struck me is the moment that I learned that when the scientific revolution happened in the 1500s, science is, I love science.
Mhm.
I was going to be a geneticist before my own trauma.
Mhm.
Um, Science just went smaller and smaller. So it's like microscopes and x-rays and antibodies and vaccines and all these things are amazing. But that at that point they gave the mind and the spirit to the church. Back then the church got anything that was mental or spiritual and
Mhm.
pleasure. We know where the church goes on pleasure.
Unfortunately.
and and then science got the body. And so we have these sorts of medicines that predate modern medicine, like Chinese medicine, that never did that. They never took them apart,
Mhm.
and they never took about any systems of the body, right? To get smaller and smaller scientifically, you have to say, okay, we're just looking at this part of the immune system, not even the whole immune system, but like just this type of antibody or just this type of histamine. And again, very cool. I'm very interested in that. But when you start to focus on that at the expense of the whole person, the sum is always greater than the parts, right?
Mhm.
And all of a sudden you're like, oh, my histamine's off. That's why I'm having miscarriages. I'm, obsessively eating and doing and taking all these things. And it's one step forward, two steps back. So Chinese medicine is really beautifully set up for this moment in medicine where all of a sudden we're seeing the actual evidence that we have to be multi-systemic integrated if we want to do evidence-based care. And
Mhm.
Chinese medicine has never taken them apart, as is the case in lots of indigenous
Mhm.
traditional medicine. So there's lots of ways to do this. The other thing that I'll say about me as a weird practitioner is we've gotten so far into being practitioner centric that even in holistic medicine, we still tend to have this like sort of westernized, I'm going to tell you how to eat. I'm going to tell you what herbs to take. I'm going to tell you how often to see me. And I'm not really going to explain it to you. I'm just going to understand it. Right. So I call
Mhm.
that faux holism, where it's like, it's could be holistic if it weren't dysregulating your nervous system.
Mhm.
But true holism, and that's what served me, right, in school and when I was working on my own things, was like I got to go through school. I got to understand it.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
got to actually make choices. I got to feel really empowered. And so when I started my practice, I'm like, there's no way I'm not doing that. I don't care what the typical practice looks like. That is what we're doing first and
Mhm.
foremost.
Mhm.
And so that's where a lot of my education and writing and YouTube and blog posts are all coming from. I don't want anybody to think they need acupuncture with Nicole Lange. It's the concepts and the
Mhm.
connections that really
Mhm.
matter.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you so much, yeah, for speaking more on that. And yeah, getting more into the nitty-gritty of this if we can. Like
Yeah,
you used a word, and I think admittedly this is the first time I've ever like heard the word when you sent over your information. Salutogenesis?
perfect.
Okay, yeah, nailed it.
Nailed
What
it.
is this? Can please, yeah.
Yeah. So over the 20 years, I've been working on a model that I call the foundation, nursery, house, and neighborhood. And so the foundation is felt safety, nervous system regulation,
Hmm.
and mental health. The nursery is the reproductive bits and pieces, the
Hmm.
reductionistic scientific stuff. The house is the whole mind body, that's the Chinese medicine, and then the neighborhood is the social community, kind of
Hmm.
bigger purpose,
Hmm.
connection, relational. So I've been doing this. 25% is pathology of your reproduction, 75% is these bigger things.
Hmm.
And then probably a year and a half ago, one of my patients that I've seen for many years is like, Nicole, I listened to this podcast about salutogenesis and I think it's what you do. And I had never heard of it.
Yeah.
And so I listened to the podcast, and it is this theory, salutogenesis, salu as in a toast to your health,
Hmm.
to genesis, the creation of. So it's the creation of
Hmm.
health, and it's a theory that was developed by a man called Aaron Antonovsky in the 70s as he was studying women who had survived Holocaust concentration camps
Mm, okay.
and were managing to not just be baseline healthy, but actually thrive.
Mm.
And he analyzed and he interviewed and he did all this research and he comes up with this idea of salutogenesis. And the basis of this is 20% of our how we're doing is troubleshooting pathology, and 80% is creating health.
Hmm.
And I was like, here for 20 years, I've been 25/75, and here's this guy doing this work that's 20/80. It's almost
Hmm.
identical. And so I love the term. I love the idea. I love knowing that it exists. And I love that like there's so many ways to get to the same place. And I was sort of on the same brainwave.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's again, it's like more of that whole person approach. And in your practice, like how do you see that outcomes are differing by using an approach like this?
Yeah. So one of my favorite stories that I like telling is a person who I was her third acupuncturist, and she's a good representative sample of, and I've obviously anonymized it and changed some things about it. But I was her third acupuncturist, and she was on her second IVF clinic. And when she went to her second IVF clinic, they're like, "Don't worry, we have this extra fancy technology. We're going to do a Doppler study of your pelvic blood flow."
Hmm.
So they flip a switch on their ultrasound machine, and the tech kind of, as she described it, kind of was like, "Oh, you have the worst measurement I've ever taken on this test."
Oh, okay.
Great bedside manner.
Great. I was like, that's encouraging.
That's
And I'm not tense at all in my body now hearing
really
that.
going to make you feel very safe.
Yeah.
Um, and so, but then the tech was like, "Don't worry, we prescribe acupuncture for this all the time." And of course, she was already on her second acupuncturist, hence fired and came to me, third
Hmm.
acupuncturist. And she's like, "Okay, these other acupuncturists must have been doing something wrong. You are really specialized. You fix my pelvic blood flow." And I was like, "All right." I clearly she's got pelvic
Challenge
blood flow
accepted.
issues.
Yeah.
And then I listened to her history and I listened to why she might not feel safe. And she had this childhood filled with childhood adversity and just a very unavailable parents that were very just mentally unhealthy and struggled with addiction and illness, physical illness, and were taking care of themselves. She was parentified and fended for herself, put herself through college, kicked ass, crushed it
Hmm.
at everything with this mentality. You know, she told me a story of how she got engaged, and she was like, it was perfect. It was like an island on a sailboat with a perfect. But the one thing is, he was chewing gum. I wish he wasn't chewing, just so down to the minutia of
Yeah.
control.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, this is so in service to her
Hmm.
safety and her resilience and everything beautiful about who she is and who people are as humans.
Hmm.
And I was like, and then I asked her, what are your other acupuncturists? What have you been doing? And she's like, she was taking all these herbs that were perfect for pelvic blood flow. She was
Hmm.
doing all these treatments that were perfect for pelvic blood flow. Electrostim acupuncture is really well studied for pelvic blood flow, and she was doing it twice a week, and she was, supplements and showing up for the appointments. And I was like, how do you feel about like, how are the herbs going? I hate them. They're gross. They gag. How do
Hmm.
you feel about the acupuncture? Electrostim is terrible. I just sit there clenching the whole time on edge. How do you feel about going twice a week? I'll do whatever it takes. I don't care. Tell me to come in 5 times. I'm like, no, 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 that's not the question.
Hmm.
How do you feel about coming in twice? Well, I have a lot of work. I'm running around. It's stressful.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, let's just assume that if that microscope slide could be treated with just the nursery focus on just the electrostim and the herbs for the pelvic blood flow, that would have happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's look at, are you safer now? How can you connect in your neighborhood? How can you pay attention to more of your whole house?
Mm-hmm.
How can you set better work-life boundaries? How can you not feel so threatened by this? And I taught her an analogy, and the analogy is about neuroplasticity and about changing the route that your brain automatically fires. And hers went to, I'll do it myself. I'll do it faster. I'll do it better. I'll do it harder. Go. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
trusting anybody. And I explained why that was resilient and it served her in everything besides her pelvic blood flow. And uh, and so I was like, you guys, it's like a horse that knows the route and it's going to go up a mountain all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
And you're asking your horse to go sit in a pasture, and your horse is like, fuck no. I hate that. Like, I don't do that. There's tigers in there. I don't know it. It's not. And like anything that's not familiar consciously feels more threatening than the familiar thing, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it's not to your body, to your nervous system. So she's like, okay, fine. How many things a day do I have to do in the stupid pasture? And I was, I was like, yes, I'll play. So we picked some things. She started doing them. She came back just once a week. We cut out all the herbs. I stopped doing electrostim acupuncture. We found acupuncture that she really could like settle into and relax and feel like she was just like spacey and felt good.
Mm-hmm.
And when she would come back into my door, she would walk in and she'd be like, Nicole, my horse hates you. I was like, yep, that feels right. Like, I don't expect 2 weeks of pasture to
Mm-hmm.
undo 37 years of mountain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So 2 months in, she was like, my horse is not going to get this. And I'm like, yeah, I know it feels like forever, but it's 37 years. It's just, you have
Mm-hmm.
to keep faking it till you make it. And she's like, okay, I'll do it. And at one point, she thought of going back to her second acupuncturist. I'm like, okay, you can. She's like, no, 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 fine, I'll do it. And then eventually, probably, 2.5 months, she started getting it. And when
Mm-hmm.
she walked in, it was like a different person. And I'm not
Mm-hmm.
intuitive. Like, I'm not like, oh, I can sense that you're feeling more. It's like her body, her face, her like demeanor was different.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, my horse actually likes pastures. Like, newsflash.
Oh, sweet.
And she went back and her pelvic blood flow was perfectly normal. And
Mm-hmm.
she went on to have two IVF pregnancies, with a different IVF clinic. I'm not saying that that was the end all be all, but it made everything
Mm-hmm.
less uphill, pun intended.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Just like the beauty and like how important it is, I think, for so myself included, like that high functioning, like anxious, high functioning anxiety person, like the rigid pattern, like have to, yeah, do all the
yeah.
things right, like get it all right. And yeah, years of therapy have helped me unpack like where that comes from in my childhood and why. And you're exactly right. Like it serves us to a point. It's what got me where I am today.
Hmm.
And there's that turning point where it's like, okay, it's time to slow down. It's like actually time to take care of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I imagine, yeah, a lot of people going through infertility might also have similar experience to that. And that's really what, yeah, I love that approach that you took with her of like asking her, how do you actually feel about these things? Because you're right. I think the energy behind it, you hear this in cancer studies, right? Like the mindset that a person has around their cancer treatment and their cancer diagnosis makes such a difference in the outcomes that they're having.
Yeah. And you never say just think about it, don't do chemo,
A
but
hundred
you but
percent.
but it's
Yeah.
it's together. It's the piece
Hmm.
that where we
Hmm.
integrate it. And, I say that's a way to sort of myth check or check something is like, would you say that to a cancer patient? And
Hmm.
here's a glue stick and a piece of paper and some magazines, just do pictures of people that look like they're healthy. It's like, no, you need the 20% depending on who you're talking to.
Hmm.
Pathology is really key, but that in a vacuum is just so unnecessarily uphill and traumatic for the person
Hmm.
who's experiencing it. Like if we're treated like all we are ovaries or a uterus or sperm factory or whatever, 42 to 46% of people who go through IVF have PTSD even if they have a baby. Like
Hmm.
that is just not okay in this day and age with the amount of trauma informed care research that we
Hmm.
have.
Hmm.
And so it's not either or. It's this is what serves people and this is what
Hmm.
gets us the best outcomes mentally, socially,
Yeah.
societally, pregnancy for the health of the baby, for the health of the mom, being pregnant
Hmm.
after pregnancy, parenting, confidence, all of it.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, so as you're speaking, it's really that pleasure, that joy, that connection, like all of this is essential. It's not
Yes.
optional. And that will kind of segue us into, right, how does pleasure, of course, this is a sex podcast, and I
Yeah.
want to just say, like, it doesn't necessarily need to be sexual pleasure, but pleasure in general, like how
Yeah.
does that actually support the nervous system when it comes to our reproductive health?
Yeah. I mean, so much good research on the you know this better than I do, but the release of neurochemicals like oxytocin and dopamine and the rush of blood flow, the just immune system changes. I mean, there's so many
Hmm.
physiological things that happen when we're feeling pleasure. Even the research on touch. I mean, it doesn't have to be,
Hmm.
and this is where it gets really tricky with trying to conceive is at least with cis hetero couples, it's penis and vagina on demand. I had a person who was like, Nicole, my partner has to get on, get off, and get off. That is his job. And I'm like, oh, that is
Hmm.
not felt safety for anyone.
Hmm. Hmm.
That is a really grim thing to have to feel. And people with penises, by 6 months of timed intercourse, about half of them have erectile dysfunction and performance
Hmm.
issues. It's like, of course they do.
Hmm.
You think of the on-demand means to an end now associated with failure and heartache kind of conditioning that we're doing with just penis and vagina as a means to deliver some semen. That's really, really the opposite of
Hmm.
salutogenesis
Hmm.
and the neighborhood connection with your closest neighbor that you're going through it with, and with your whole house feeling like it's really feeling good and abundant and safe to feel pleasure and to let its guard down and to experience that. So, one of the things that I really, really like to work on people early on is I give 5 cc syringes away like they're trick or treat candy so that people can do insemination themselves at home. Like
Hmm.
you can do hand stuff, you can do mouth stuff, you can do cuddle stuff, you can do Netflix stuff. Ejaculate in a cup, put it in your vagina. Now you don't have this pressure to like this all has to I have to be lubricated, you have to be erect, we have to make this happen at
Hmm.
before you go to work. And
Hmm.
that alone, that freedom of, yeah, we can do this and still prioritize pleasure and still prioritize our needs, even if it's exhaustion and it's the Netflix version.
Hmm. Hmm.
I have people that have conceived with the syringes that I hand out. I was just writing about one
I
for
was
my
just
book.
thinking, I was like, okay, they ejaculate into a cup. I'm like,
Yeah,
then do I have to be
yeah.
upside down and then they like pour it in my vagina? Do we and
Yeah,
just shoot it up there with
you just
something? Like,
you
what
just
do
suck it
we?
up in the little syringe. It's like a Tylenol syringe for kids. You
Yeah.
can buy
Yeah.
it and throw it away. You just put it up like a tampon.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
just,
Okay.
lay there if you want. You don't have to go, you don't have to do an inversion or anything crazy. You can just be like, yep, chilling and,
Perfect. Yeah.
go take a shower, do what, like
Yeah.
sleep naked together. Like this is just about
Hmm.
how do we separate the mechanical needs of trying to
Hmm.
conceive from and it's people that don't need sex to get pregnant too. I'm working with a amazing couple right now that they're using a known donor. They're a lesbian couple, and the partner who's not trying to conceive was getting pretty stressed about like, okay, we got to go to our friend's house. He's ejaculating in the bath. So we came up with like a really good plan for them to get more connected as the couple that was trying to conceive.
Hmm.
And it was a bit of a trek. They weren't like right next to their house, so they had to find something that was like not immediately. So they came up with like going to lunch at a little restaurant and going in the bathroom together and just telling the hostess like we have to do a shot for fertility or something, and then
Yeah.
going in there and doing the insemination and like having a
Hmm.
cute little secret session of like make out or like giggling or whatever. And
Yeah.
and like it's just a way to bring in a different energy than just all this is mechanical.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think like out of all the fertility episodes I've had on here, no one has mentioned that. So that was my nugget of like, it does not have to be just P and V for the
Hmm.
insemination. There's many other ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, now my mind is just like, huh, like thinking of all the scenarios, like how that could be so fun for somebody going through this even.
And like and there's always two ways to, you could take it as like, oh, that's so depressing. We're not even, but it's like, no, put something else there. Like
Hmm.
don't, it's not just, oh, we're not even having sex. We're just doing this with this syringe. It's like we're so open and we've prioritized our joy and our connection so much that we're getting creative. And
Hmm.
all of a
Hmm.
sudden that mindset, like you said about the oncology thing, it's like so much research now is saying if you look close, it's perception of
Hmm.
perception of stress. It's not stress, it's perception of stress. It's
Hmm.
perception of your sleep quality, not actually how you sleep. Like there's crazy studies
Hmm.
that show your perception again really makes all these ripples in your nervous system that
Hmm.
change everything.
Hmm. Mm. Yeah, and so that's, I mean, bringing that to pleasure, right? Like even from this, the self-pleasure aspect, speaking kindly to ourselves, treating ourselves kindly,
Yes.
giving ourselves pleasure, like all of the all of this can be supportive to your fertility health as well.
Yes. Yeah. And self-pleasure is something that goes right out the window. It's like I haven't thought
Mhm.
about that. I'm so focused on, and it's like I love giving people, assignments to go to the local. Shout out to Smitten Kitten in Minneapolis. They've done so much mutual aid outreach with what's going on in our city, and they're just very progressive. They're women-owned, body positive,
Mhm.
non-toxic sex
Mhm.
toys. But pure pleasure. I know you've got a history with pure
Mhm.
pleasure. That was one of the first things I started doing in my practice when I was like, no, we have to live more and long less was I had a pure pleasure person come in
Yeah.
and I started doing a once a year thing called Get Your Sexy Back. And it was about how do we bring this back,
Mhm.
even if we're doing IVF or whatever.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, like check out the amazing clitoral stimulators that are out there. If you don't feel like penis and vagina is appealing and you feel, like your partner is frustrated and that feels stressful to you,
Mhm.
check out the Tenga eggs. I love, like there's just so many
Mhm.
different
Mhm.
things that you can do that are not just, oh, we can't do it that or we're not doing that. It's so freeing and so
Mhm.
fun and so
Mhm.
important. And so healing for me, and my practice is called Life Healing Life, full circle, because for me to talk about this stuff as a person who was brought up with such shame and such, that's not okay.
Mhm.
And for me to, run in a circle with some of my colleagues that have done my Get Your Sexy Backs are these amazing authors and sex educators and
Mhm.
coaches in the Twin Cities. It's like it's so healing for me to just sit back and listen to them talk. It's
Mhm.
like, wait a
Mhm.
second. Oh, that's like even more inclusive. Or, oh, that I never heard it said that way. And that's like such a loving, kind way to say that. Or all the consent from the time you're like born, not just sexual consent. It's just such a cool community. So
Mhm.
thank you
Mhm.
for the podcast and building the community.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so needed, and yeah, I think it's definitely a growing population. And the more that we can just offer this, right, that come from that sex positive lens of like no, nothing is weird, nothing is wrong, right, unless you're putting yourself or someone else at harm or risk, and it's not consensual because
Hmm.
right there sometimes that shows up too in play. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I love this just this conversation, this approach that you're bringing with your clients and patients as well of really treating them in a way to treat themselves with kindness and bring in more of that pleasure. And yeah, always a fan when people bring in the hormone release that happens when we experience pleasure, because yeah, why would we not want more of that, right? And then the just the overall good that that has for our body. It's not just about getting off or having the orgasm. There's so much benefit that that can bring to you for this. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Even the upwards suction of the muscle contractions, there's one evolutionary theory that pulls semen up into the
Hmm.
cervix. And,
Hmm.
nothing is a slam dunk with these theories, but it's so interesting to think
Mm.
about it. And so, yeah. And from a Chinese medicine perspective, orgasm is one of the most powerful ways to get out of fight or flight.
Hmm.
Like orgasm and exercise. So I'll tell people, like there's studies for like orgasm versus Imitrex for migraines. And it's like just I
Mm-hmm.
know the last thing you want to do is have an orgasm when you're like, I'm
Yeah.
starting to see an aura. I'm starting to get like, I'm gonna be down for the count. But it's like if you have like a really good toy that you know really works for your body,
Mm-hmm.
and even people that are taking antidepressants or SSRIs that are like, no, these don't like, there's so much that you can find
Mm-hmm.
and work with. And it's like just shut the door, get out your toy and
Mm-hmm.
see what it does for your headache.
Mm-hmm.
And you might not be in the mood, but it's a treatment just like taking the Imitrex would be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's natural and it's pregnancy safe and it's cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
It works.
It's cool.
Like, why wouldn't you? Oh
It's
my
cool.
gosh. I also shout out to clitoral stimulators. There's research on putting them up your nose for aborting
Sinus. Yeah.
miscarriages and for
Oh,
sinus
wow. Yeah.
drainage.
Yeah.
So I told my sinus doctor this and he's like, "Well, there's a machine for that." And he gave me a pamphlet and it was like $300. I'm like, "I can get this for like $30 at the
Yeah.
local sex
My
toy
bullet
shop."
will work fine. Yeah.
And you get a little enough one that can go up your nose. I'm like, it's amazing as somebody who gets sinus issues all the time. So it's like
Yeah.
twofer, like a
Body massages, like unplugging your milk ducts, like so many things.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Mm.
it's really great.
Mm. So if somebody is listening and or know somebody that is struggling with fertility right now, what is one mindset shift that you would recommend like as a good place to start for them?
Yeah, I would just start by seeing like what amount of your energy, what ratio is going into nursery
Mhm.
versus the foundation, the
Mhm.
house, and the
Mhm.
neighborhood. And if your impulse is like more nursery, harder core, like dig in, that's probably not in service to the other parts. And so you have to trust that like there's certain key things that you can do to sort of pimp out your nursery. And you want good contractors doing good work. But put more energy in especially the foundation. And I have
Mhm.
so much free information,
Mhm.
everything from a trying to conceive timing guide to YouTube videos to acupressure to entire programs. Most of it is free. I really want to change. And then the other thing that goes with that is think about why that is. Why is your energy like that? Because it's not your fault. It's not a personal
Mhm.
choice. It's the culture that's treating infertility like it's different than any other medical condition by like
Mhm.
not covering it with insurance. It's
Mhm.
it's the least litigious, one of the least litigious types of medicine because we look at it as like we're lucky if you can give us a baby versus like you're my doctor, you should give me good care and I should expect the best results.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so there's so many ways that we have um, sort of just been swimming in this soup of not women centered, not person centered, not holistic centered
Mhm.
fertility mindset that once you start looking around and you see like, oh, when that happens, that's giving me that message. Oh, when that's happening, that's telling me this doesn't matter. A maternal mortality expert that I heard talking on NPR once was like, we treat the mom like she's the oily little paper cup and the baby's the peanut butter cup, you know? Like like we are not. Like you're the whole candy bar lady
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
or human, just like you should feel more and more abundant
Mhm.
and resourced and capable because you're educated and informed and like
Mhm.
safe and like the places that pleasure can happen are all these
Mhm.
places.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's true fertility. That's cultivating fertility versus just trying to fix infertility.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Thank you so much, Nicole, yeah, for coming onto the show today and
Thank
just
you.
sharing all of this with us. And yeah, is there for people listening again, is there anything that you hope somebody takes away from this episode today?
I just hope it takes off the baby blinders. I call it the
Yeah.
baby blinders, just that
Yeah.
there's only a rigid set of things that you're working on and just expand to
Mhm.
like, yeah, I want more pleasure. Yeah, I need connection. Yeah, I need fun.
Mhm.
And that's
Mhm.
not just a add-on, that is a fertility treatment. My
Mhm.
outcomes
Mhm.
are better than the studies, and I do less drilling down. So I hope people
Amazing.
can start to do that.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And lifehealinglife.com, right? That's the
That's
website.
it. That's it.
Perfect. We'll link that in the show notes and any other ways to get in touch with you, any socials that you recommend for people to follow.
I try not to because it's not practicing what I preach, but I do have a YouTube channel, and that is the baby you want, at the baby you want, and that has a lot of good free information too.
Amazing. Thank you
Yeah,
so much again for coming on today. It was really a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. That was really fun.